just wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Wait, Mr. Postman.
Please, Mr. Postman, look and see.
Oh yeah.
There's a letter in your bag for me.
Please, Mr. Postman.
Why's it taking such a long time?
Oh yeah.
Only to hear from that boy of mine.
We're back, AM 700 KSEV, the Open House Radio Show. Time for our mail call segment for today. And our mail call segment has to do with the Information About Brokerage Services form. Although when the question came in, they didn't know that's what it was called. Question reads, I recently went and looked at a home, and the first thing the real estate agent tried to do was to get me to sign a document. Why would they ask me to sign something before anything else ever happens? It's a great question, and the simple fact is state law. It is a requirement of the Texas Real Estate Commission. The Texas Real Estate License Act says that we are, as real estate agents, required to give you this form at our first face-to-face meeting before any kind of what we consider substantive dialogue takes place. Substantive dialogue would be anything where we would be committing an act of representation if we answered the question for you. For instance, why would the seller be selling? How much is this property worth? How long has it been on the market? Things like that. Those are questions that, as real estate agents, we can't really answer for you until we represent you. So this form is called the Information About Brokerage Services form, and since about 1992, 1993, real estate agents have had the ability to represent buyers and or sellers. So what we have to do as real estate agents is provide you with information that the state of Texas says that you need, and this information simply tells you that how we interact with you is going to be based on the choices that you as the consumer make. If you want us to be representing the seller, then as the buyer, we're not really going to be able to help you very much when it comes time to answer the questions that you want answered. If we're representing you only, then everything that we do is in your best interest, and we would answer every question that you would have for us to the best of our ability. If we're representing both sides of the transaction, then there are some other things that need to take place depending on the particular situation. But this form is a requirement by Texas state law that says that we are required to present this form to you at our first face-to-face meeting. Now, the problem sometimes that I think we run into is that if you as a buyer have gone out and looked at 4 or 5, 6 different houses and none of the rest of the agents have provided you this information, you kind of wonder why you go to the sixth one and you look at one with a real estate agent and they give you this form and say that it's required that you acknowledge that you received it. And it ends up looking like the one that did the job that they were supposed to do is the one who's trying to force you to do something that maybe the rest of them didn't do. And that's the problem. Unfortunately, I wish I could say that every real estate agent out there does exactly what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it, but it's just simply not the case. This form is a requirement, and it is supposed to be presented to you as a potential buyer or a potential seller, for that matter, at the first face-to-face meeting before any substantive dialogue goes on. Signing this form does not bind you to anything. It simply tells you you have choices, and that's what the Texas law requires us to do. Now, from that form, we have to make those choices. Do you want us to represent you? Do you want us to represent the other side? Is there a possibility we could be representing both sides? If so, what happens then? So this really is a precursor, this form, the Information About Brokerage Services form, is a precursor to what comes next. Getting the buyer representation agreement signed, getting the listing agreement signed, whatever comes next. But it is a requirement and it is necessary. So please understand, if you are a buyer going out to look at property, until you're actually represented by somebody, you should be getting this form to sign. That's just the way it is. Like I said, it doesn't bind you to anything. It just simply tells you you have choices. And the way that you and I are going to interact as realtor and buyer, the way that we are going to interact is going to depend completely on the choices that you make. If I represent you, we have no secrets. I tell you everything that I know. If I'm representing the other side, there's certain information that I will give you because the law requires it, but there's certain information that I won't tell you because it would hurt my client's ability to make the best deal they can. Of course, in that case, my client would be the seller. So you have to make that choice. If you're the potential buyer, you're the potential seller, you have to make the choice as to how I'm going to interact with you. And that's what that form does. It is a requirement. It is a necessary form. So please, when they give you that form and they explain to you that it doesn't bind you to anything, don't be afraid of it. Don't feel like that they're trying to get you to do something that you don't want to do. Don't think that they are trying to trick you into something, because that's not what they're doing. They are simply following Texas state law. All right. That's our mail call segment for this week. If you have a question that you'd like to have answered, you can call us here, 281-558-5738, and we'll be glad to answer that question for you. If it's during the week, you can post it on our Facebook page, Open House Radio with Don Leonard, or you can email us at openhouseradio@yahoo.com. Okay, let's get back to the open house part of the show. On the phone with me is Christy Woods, and Christy, I kind of built it up a little bit before we got started.